Hi guys, it's Angie and I'm back with another video. It's been about 6 months or so since I've posted one, puppy Dublin in the background here. But the reason for that being is I had to sell my camera equipment, um, and I didn't want to put out any content that seemed like it was lower in quality than my previous videos, but seeing as I'm not going to buy any new equipment for another month or so, um, this will have to do. So bear with me if you can. Today I want to talk about relationships, INFJ relationships, my experience in relationships and with romantic partners, kind of what I look for in a partner. I've seen a lot of, or I've watched some YouTube videos where INFJs speak on their relationships and either what they're looking for, issues that they've had, and I definitely can relate to a lot of what's said. And I'm going to go into kind of a lot of the same topics, but hopefully add some of my own personal experience to add something new. So in relationships with an INFJ, I think it's important for us to feel like we have a partner, someone that really is willing to get to know us on a deeper level. It's easy to interact with most people, in general, strangers, and for us to kind of mold to them in a way that it seems almost like we can mirror them and be a version of them when we're interacting with them, and that can kind of have the person think that we're very similar to them. And one thing that I enjoy is having someone get to know me and ask questions that kind of provoke deeper thought, kind of going down different rabbit holes of information, abstractly. Like we can talk about things that haven't happened yet, different ideas about, I don't know, anything from ranging from aliens to past childhood experiences, or what do you think about this weird social construct, and kind of delve deep into the details of that. I really dislike having small talk with people, and I think in a relationship, it's very important for me to be able to speak my mind freely and not feel like I'm going to be judged for the things that I say or feel weird. I already know I'm weird. And that maybe that's something I should mention. I kind of look for people that are also weird, in the sense that they're different from, they want to talk about different things than the weather or their favorite sports team. I mean, those things are cool, and if they're unique to the individual and they care about them, like, sure, that's part of who they are, but I want them to be able to kind of explore things with me mentally. I really like someone who challenges me mentally. I think in a lot of ways, I have a very feminine nature about me, but there's also a little bit of the masculine in the sense that I'm a pretty driven person. And intellectually, I'm kind of competitive in a sense where I just want to dive deeper and have my mind challenged and challenge other people. And I was once dating an ENTP guy who really challenged me intellectually, and it was very attractive for me because most of the things I think about, people will kind of smile, or if I try to talk about something that's going on in my head, a lot of times I'll have a guy who is like, wow, you're such a deep thinker. That's pretty cool. And it's nice to hear. It's a compliment to me, but for a romantic partnership, I want someone who hears my thought and is kind of like, okay, let's take it a step further. And well, what do you really think about that? Can you elaborate on it more? Or, well, I bet you never thought of this thing. And it's this back and forth. So anyway, this guy who was an ENTP, we had this, we spent a day together, which turned into a night. And then in the morning, we made breakfast and we were just hanging out in his room for a while. And we were talking about, we're watching podcasts, and the podcast spurred this other conversation that kind of went in an existential way. And we kind of went back on our thoughts about life and who we are, what we want from the world, what we want to contribute to the world, and how we see ourselves in the next 10 years. And we ended up watching the sun, basically the sun come up. We watched the sun up and until it set the entire day, just like, I don't know, that's just kind of ingrained in my mind, is sitting in that room and watching the sun just kind of like go down as we spent the whole day just exploring each other's minds. And that's huge for me. And I believe other INFJs who don't get to share that they don't get that stimulation from most people they meet. In another sense, I want someone who's also emotionally mature. I think I have a pretty good handle on my emotions for the most part. Sometimes I don't always know what it is I'm feeling or why I'm feeling a certain way, but I do really appreciate partners who are able to talk things out with me. Having extroverted feelings, sometimes I kind of need to, if I'm stressed or if I think there's a problem in the relationship, I want to be around someone who's able to talk that out with me and not gaslight or turn it back on me and say, well, or shut me down, because sometimes it takes a lot for me to bring up things that are bothering me. And if someone is quick to say that I'm making a big deal out of something, then it's hurtful. And for a relationship to progress or to work out long term, we should be able to have conversations where we're respectful to one another, and it's just always kind of progressing. I mean, that's another thing about relationships. I don't think necessarily they're always linear. And I would hope that the person I'm with, it's not mundane. I think we hear a lot about ENFPs and ENTPs, and those extroverted intuitives get bored easily. I can see that being true. For me, I can also get bored with the mundane. If I was with a partner who, let's say we had this routine where we came home from work every day and we just sat on the couch and watched TV and then went to bed, and in the morning we did the same exact thing again, that would get old to me pretty fast. And that goes back to having stimulating conversations that kind of bring newness to the relationship. Like, we're constantly learning things about each other, day in, day out. And I think that's why I could really have a good relationship with anyone who is an intuitive Dom. I did date an ESFP for a while, and that relationship had its struggles, and it also had its upsides. I value what sensors can bring to the relationship for me, in the sense that they're more realists and they kind of ground me in a way where sometimes I feel like for extroverted intuitives, I'm the grounding partner. But for the extroverted sensing or introverted sensing partners, they kind of were able to help me bring my ideas to fruition. And it felt lonely at times with him because I couldn't speak my mind as freely, or I could, but he couldn't really go deeper with me. He'd kind of nod and smile in amusement at the things I had to say, but then he'd go back to saying, well, let's just play a video game, or let's just go to this bar down the street. And it was fun. It was a fun relationship. I learned a lot about myself. I kind of was able to explore the extroverted sensing inferior part of myself, where I got to come out of my shell a bit more and try different things. And it was exciting. It was so exciting and fun and funny and lighthearted. With any relationship that we have, I don't think that there's one specific type that the INFJ is going to hit it off with best. It really comes down to how well your value systems match up, and are you able to handle each other day in and day out? Or are you constantly fighting, not seeing eye to eye on things? And that can happen with some types more than others, which is why I see the sensor intuitive line kind of blurring a little bit, where there could be more challenges, but there could be more rewards in that sense as well, where you're learning a lot from that partner. So I'm kind of careful to say that there's one specific type out there for INFJs. So I kind of went into types. I didn't mean to do that. So I'll kind of try to bring conversation back to specifically what we look for in partners, or how I am in relationships. So aside from having openness and authenticity in relationships, I also need a lot of recharge time in my relationships. I really value independence. And while I do love sharing everything with a person, in a sense that you could almost say, like, I idealize people to being a soulmate of some sort, I still want to keep a boundary between me and the partner where I am still able to hold on to who I am and do things that make me happy, not just make them happy. And that's something I kind of had to learn over time in my relationships, is to not always appease the other person because I want to see them happy. Because that can lead to burnout for me. Not getting enough time to myself can make me not show up in the relationship in a way that I wanted to. So the partner that I'm with has to understand that I'm going to need sometimes days of recharge time. We can live in the same house and I can be sitting next to them, but I might be reading a book or researching something of interest to me, and I need to do that for hours on end to feel that spunk and liveliness that I want to bring to a relationship, and I can come back to my partner and be loving and caring. Otherwise, I get really burnt out, and I can resent my partner for not giving me enough space, or for me not asking for enough space, or them understanding that I need to take that time apart. I mean, that usually happens a lot more with extroverted partners, for sure. I can see that being more of a problematic, but usually the ENFPs and ENTPs that I've hung out with or have as friends respect that about me. They're just like, oh, Angie's going off to do her introverting time and she'll be back when she's ready. That's super important. Another thing for me to realize in relationships is not to idealize my partner. I think when I first meet somebody, it's easy to envision where we could be ultimately. And sometimes I'll write people off too soon. I think I'll meet them, and if I see a quality about them where I'm like, I don't see a future. And excuse me, you hear that term a lot, or you hear that phrase a lot, like, oh, I don't see a future with them. But for INFJs, I really think like we have to see that future, because we're going to see a future, not in the sense that we're psychic, but our minds are just naturally going to project what could be. And a lot of times it happens in an instant when I meet someone. I'm like, okay, like this is how this date would be with them, or this is what living a life with them could be like. And I have to be enthused by that future. I have to feel like that's something I want, or that's something that's healthy for the long run, whether I enjoy the present moment with them or an interaction with somebody. I have to be able to see that future. And on the flip side of that, I have to be careful that I'm not projecting my idealization onto the partner, which I've done in the past, where I'm like, this isn't how I imagined it in my head, but nobody's perfect, and I don't think I'm ever going to meet a perfect person. I'm not perfect. But I have to be more understanding of where people fall short. And in the same sense, I've been with people who do fall short, but I take my commitments so seriously that I'll stay with them when they begin to fall short of what I had imagined. And I'm very committed to the people I enter relationships with, and I think that's why it takes me such a long time to get into a relationship. I take things pretty slowly. because that helps me see the future better. Like, I'm not going to know everything about someone the moment I meet them, but the more time we spend together, the more I'm able to see where things are headed. And this hasn't been so much a struggle for introverted partners that I've had. They've been similar to me in that way. I've seen, especially ENFPs, I've seen kind of not get frustrated with me, even ENTPs, but they're kind of like, well, we've been on like 5 dates. Like, why are we not official? We've been seeing each other for a few months. Like, what's the deal? Are you not interested in me? Are you trying to see other people? And I'm like, no, that's not it. I would like to know that when I make that commitment, I'm not going to waver from it, because I know who you are in a general sense, and I know how we're going to work together, and I'm wholeheartedly ready to share this part of myself with you, because when I give myself over to somebody, I give almost all of myself. Like I said, I still try to keep that boundary line. But that's why I think INFJs especially have to be careful about who they get into relationships with, because we are so committed. And I've heard, horror stories about those who get into relationships with narcissists and people with a lot of issues, because we can understand where people are coming from. And I think some INFJs might want to fix people like that. And that goes back to that idealization, where we think we can change the partner and our lives might be different if we could only get them to do this or this. Ultimately, I don't want to change the person I'm with. And I don't think you should. They should want to do things because they want to do them. So I guess where I'll wrap that up is they'll want to do that because they're interested in positive growth, and that can be for any single type out there. I think INFJs need someone who's going to be a forever learner with them, who's going to be a forever adventurer, whether that's mental or physical, trying new things with them, bringing new ideas and new experiences into our lives, and we can be each other's partner in crime. And maybe that's me idealizing a relationship, but I don't take relationships lightly. I want that person that I'm with to be a best friend and to be someone that challenges me. Like I said before, I have to feel like I'm not going to break them, that they're not fragile, that the things I'm going to do aren't going to hurt them. And that might sound kind of vague, but the things that I do or want to see in the world, like I want to experience a lot of different things over time, and like I said, continual learning and stuff. And if a partner's really ready to just settle down in the sense that they're comfortable with the way they are, they don't want to keep progressing and changing and exploring themselves, then it might not work out in the long run. I have a lot to improve on, and for me to stay interested in someone, I think they might have to be on the same page ultimately. Finding someone who's on the same page as you is a struggle, and especially dating in my 20s, I know I'm still pretty young. I have a lot of life and probably heartbreaks and relationships to come, but I still ultimately see myself with someone who is going to continually inspire me and me inspire them. I felt like I rambled on for this whole entire video because I'm not going from script or anything. I can kind of, ideas might bounce around, not come out as linear in my head as they do. Not come out as linear on camera as they do in my head. But thanks for watching this video. Hopefully I added something new to your understanding of INFJs and relationships. If you're dating an INFJ or would like to understand more about them, if you are an INFJ and you can relate to some of these hopes for your relationships and maybe struggles that you've had, I would love to hear about them, how you relate, or maybe in ways that you're different. Yeah, so I guess look out for another video, hopefully soon, hopefully with new camera equipment. But yeah, all right, bye.